connects people to the manner in which God intends them to live.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday, May the 9th, 2024. And in studio with me is Ed Vitagliano. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Tim.
Chris Woodward.
Hello.
And in Kansas City, it's Ray Pritchard. Good morning, Ray.
Hey, Tim. How you doing today?
Doing well. As the weather calmed down there in the Midwest.
All that bad weather has gone somewhere to the east. I think maybe South Carolina. But here in Kansas City, it's bright, blue sky, sunny. We're going to have a high of 72. Tim, I can get you a tea time at 1:30.
Oh, man. That's what God made that weather for.
That's exactly right. This golf weather.
No tea time in this neck of the woods. It's been so wet. But
yeah. But now, did you say you are or not riding your bike now that you're going through this therapy? Cancer.
I am, but not as much. When they take that testosterone out of your body, which is what they have done.
Right.
I rode it 2 days ago, and I was going up, Tim, what was a very minor hill.
Right.
And I was huffing and puffing
right.
and had to stop and get my breath. So I'll be glad to get my testosterone back, maybe in September, something like that.
This is a strange conversation.
Hey, it's a facts of life.
Yes,
right?
it is. No, it is.
Facts of
That's
life.
right. That's right.
Get his testosterone back in September.
That's what I'm
I
hoping.
left it in the glove box of my car. I'm not sure where I left it.
Amazon will be delivering it.
Yeah.
That's right. It's coming before 7 tonight.
So you're about on maybe a quarter or a half of what you normally would do?
A quarter, maybe.
Okay.
Quarter.
All right.
I'm walking 10,000 steps a day.
Okay.
That's about what I can do. You know?
That's good. That's a lot of exercise right there. I mean, considering you're
Well, they say
going through treatment.
That's what you're supposed to hit.
10,000 a day.
10,000 a day.
Do you hit it, Ed?
I've switched it to 10,000 forklifts.
Oh,
yeah,
forklifts.
Forklifts.
Yeah.
Got it. I like it.
Right hands.
Yeah.
Up to
Yes. And then do some left hand forklifts.
I'm gonna fit this whole pizza inside my mouth.
Oh man.
Oh, I see. Because I'm Italian. All right, Chris. That's all I eat is pizza. Is that what you're saying? All right.
I'm gonna call Ed the sensitive Italian. He just gets his feelings hurt real quick.
I could have a cooking show.
Yeah,
the sensitive Italian
with
I
Ed
like it.
Vitagliano. All right. Thanks for joining us. If you want to watch this show on the internet, what do they need to do, Ed?
Well, if you'd like to watch this here show, we have a live video stream. Several ways you can access it. You can go old school, go to Facebook and search for Today's Issues. You can go to YouTube and search for Today's Issues Live. We recommend that you go to our own streaming platform, stream.afa.net. There's instructions there about how you can access not only the live video stream for this show, but other live talk radio shows on our network. Or you can go to X, formerly known as Twitter, and search for American Family Radio. And we do have a live video stream there on X, formerly known as Twitter.
And Chris posts the stories that we're going to discuss today and every
we have
day
several
on our Facebook page. So go to Today's Issues Facebook page, and we post the stories so you can see if we're making this stuff up.
Trust me, I'm a reporter.
Right. All right, Chris,
Trust
what's
you.
your first story?
A couple of days ago, it was recommended by Democrats and political science people that President Biden should only do interviews with friendly news outlets. And he did one last night on CNN. It was a rare sit-down interview that President Joe Biden did with CNN. And he's being criticized for it today for being tone-deaf about the economy. Here is an exchange between CNN's Aaron Burnett and Joe Biden, and watch what he says about the economy. Clip 1.
What about, but there's real pain. Grocery prices are up 30%, more than 30%. since the beginning of the pandemic, and people are spending more on food and groceries than they have at any time really in the past 30 years. I mean, that's a real day-to-day pain that people feel.
It really is, and it's real. But the fact is that if you take a look at what the people have, they have the money to spend. It angers them and angers me that you have to spend more. For example, the whole idea of this notion that Senator Casey talked about, shrinkflation. I think it's on your
Same
program.
price for a smaller bottle of juice
Well,
or something.
for example, Snickers bar, they did a thing, and it's like 20% less for the same price. That's corporate greed. It's corporate greed. And we've got to deal with it, and that's what I'm working on.
There's two things that people are pointing to there. He says that people can afford things, which is not true because wages are down under his watch. Heritage Foundation points that out every time I talk to them on a weekly basis, pretty much. And then secondly, he goes into the shrinkflation thing as being this problem that's crept up overnight, but that's been an issue for decades, long before he was vice president.
What is shrinkflation?
That's when you like.
So
Here's my Diet Coke.
Pizza. No, use a pizza for example.
All right,
And I don't. This is not an ethnic stereotype.
Of course not. Of course not. So here would be an example of shrinkflation.
Yeah.
You go to Little Caesars.
Right.
You buy for the same price as you always buy it. They're hot and ready pizza, and you take it over for the grandkids. And then Papa brings it in, and he's the hero.
Right.
Mimi gets squat because Papa brought it in. Okay. All right. So you guys tracking with me?
Yeah, it sounds like
All right.
we lived this.
Yes. So the problem is you pay the same price, but when you open that pizza,
Right.
it's 25% smaller. So you think the price hasn't gone up, but in reality, though the price has stayed the same, it's purchasing 25% less.
Okay.
Now, a lot of companies do this, but as Chris points out, this has been going on for decades. You buy the same bag of chips, you buy the same, whatever.
Yeah, you can't do that with everything. Like a 12-inch pizza is a 12-inch pizza,
Right.
unless, of course, you order a pepperoni and you get one pepperoni
That's right.
per slice. Now,
So-
that is aggravating.
No, it is.
Yeah.
They-
I ask now for extra pepperoni just so I can get
Which you
what used to
get.
be
Yes.
the normal amount of pepperoni.
So,
Yeah.
President Biden,
Shrinkflation.
here's several things wrong with what President Biden said. First of all, Chris, as you point out, shrinkflation is a real thing, but it's been going on for decades, not just since he took office. Second of all, the spiraling prices happened on his watch. This explanation, this excuse he gives, is not going to sell with the American people. And third of all, it is a knee-jerk reaction for revolutionaries of a Marxist bent to always blame the capitalists for every problem. It's corporate greed. They're the bad guys, corporations, capitalism. But, Mr. President, it's actually your policies regarding energy and giving away money and so on and so forth.
Right. And this is the second head scratcher of a comment that he's done in a week. And I say that because last Friday, when we got a less than expected 175,000 new jobs, he went on to say in the first sentence of his statement, quote, "The great American comeback continues. We got fewer jobs than we were expecting." He goes on to talk about his agenda is working. And then in the second paragraph, he talks again about how he has lowered the price of insulin. Now, that's a great thing. Americans,
If you need it.
Right.
Yeah.
But most people that are not on insulin don't give a hoot about that being lower. And when we have
They don't
fewer
care
jobs,
about diabetics.
well, if they're needing a job and they're having trouble making ends meet in this economy, they don't. It doesn't resonate with them. So he keeps going to these talking points that don't have anything to do with the issue that he's
Ray,
being presented.
what do you think about all this?
Well, I went to the hardware store the other day, and it was right about lunchtime, and I had to get a battery for.
Had to get testosterone, right?
Well, they were all out. There'd been a run on it evidently. The shelves were bare. Testosterone aisle was bare. So I go to the checkout, and they have all the candy up there by the checkout, right?
Yeah.
Impulse buy,
Right.
And I saw over there a candy bar, one of those nougat fills with the peanuts. I guess Payday was what it was.
Yeah.
and it was a little bit smaller than what I remember seeing, and it was for $2.59. Now, Ed, that's what communism is, right there.
Yes.
When you're shrinking the candy bar and you're tripling the price. That's what happens when the communists come to power.
Yes.
$2.59. So I went away hungry. I wasn't going to spend that for a payday candy bar.
And under communism, you'd only have one type of candy bar. That's it.
That's right.
And it's a kind that nobody likes.
That's right.
This is your choice.
Yeah. Hey, so this was an interview, what we played there, that clip there that
Yes.
we're giving such detailed analysis of, which is very informational.
Right.
But he's talking there, Biden's talking, he's trying to talk to CNN, which is a friendly place for him to do an interview. He did acknowledge what I heard him. He acknowledged that that the price of things are up. True.
Yes.
But then he said, well, but people have the money to pay for it.
Which is not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people.
For many
do.
of them.
Some
For
people
many
do.
people.
Some people do. But that was about as close as you're going to come to CNN sort of holding him accountable for the economic, primarily for inflation. Inflation, since Biden got in, has gone nuts.
As a result of his policies, because we're printing
Right.
money willy-nilly.
Well, even if it isn't a result of his policies, he's going to get blamed for it because
I will
you
say
have to
this
take because that happened on your watch.
I will say this to be fair. Some of this is probably the result of what President Trump did
COVID
in
money.
response to COVID.
That is
with
fair.
all that money. That's fair. However, first of all, as we said on this show many times, Tim, you famously have said it, as who I remember saying it, is that the president gets too much credit when things go well and probably too much blame when things go poorly. So the fact is inflation really has taken off on Biden's watch. That's what people are going to remember. And his policies really, I think, have driven inflation through the roof.
Yeah.
So he really does deserve the blame, much of the blame for
But
what's happening.
So it's one of those things where what do you expect him to say, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're right, man. I'm terrible at the economy. I've got some good qualities, but but when it comes to money and economy and jobs, I'm a loser.
Yes.
Next question.
Right, he's not. So his staff
What is
gives
he
him
supposed
these
to say?
answers to say.
Yeah.
Blame it on the corporate.
Corporate greed. You throw it in the corporate greed pot.
Right.
Mix it up. There's nothing. That's what a lot of these politicians go to is nebulous answers or answers of that you can't prove one way or another necessarily. So he goes corporate greed. Well, how do you measure that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I have said on this show that I wasn't.
You believe in that too, don't you?
I do. I do think that there's some of that, and there have been some studies showing that for many of the products, the price increases exceeded inflation. So I'm not saying that what President Biden is saying is completely false. I've complained bitterly. Shed bitter tears about what some of the grocery stores that we normally go to. I'm just going to call them out, Walmart and Kroger, that my Diet Cokes went up astronomically over the Biden years.
Have a Coke and a smile, Ed.
Listen, it went from like $3 to $6. It doubled. So what I'm saying, 100% increase cannot be explained by inflation alone. So there is some of that, but some of these companies are taking advantage of the Biden inflation that he caused.
Tacking on another quarter.
Soda itself has gone up a lot. At the beginning of this century, when I was coming out of finishing high school, going into college, I worked at a grocery store, and we sold Coca-Cola products 2 for $5, 12 packs 2 for $5. And within a few years, all of a sudden, you were lucky if you could get a 12-pack of Coca-Cola for $5. And now you're lucky if you get the store-bought brand, Big K, whatever, Great Value, Sam's Choice, something like that. You're lucky if you can get the store-bought stuff for $5.
Yeah,
a 12-pack of it.
Who drinks that?
Well, people that can't afford Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
The regular stuff.
Yeah,
right.
and for some of our listeners,
Am I uppity because I won't drink that?
Yeah.
No, you're healthy. You make healthy choices.
Oh, I go for the straight.
For our West Coast and
Coke
Northern
Zero.
listeners, we're talking about soda and pop.
Okay, I'm just going to say, going to
just
toss
say-
in
just say
here.
it, say
I'm
it.
just going to say there are some things you shouldn't skimp on.
Right.
Okay,
That's
some
right.
things are worth the amount of money you
You are exactly
pay.
right.
The off-brand colas.
Off-brand colas.
You're not going to
no.
do that.
I'm just going to tell you, I'm not trying to be ugly here.
Okay, don't be careful. We don't want to get
off-brand
sued.
toilet paper. Forget it.
No, yeah.
Paper towels. You want
Some things you can't.
some things you
You
don't
got to
need
have
to.
conviction,
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
right, Ray?
Some things.
You got to have it, and I'm with you on the toilet paper and the paper towels and on the soft
Listen,
drinks.
If we learned anything from 2020, it's that the struggle is real, and you don't skimp.
Thank you.
I guess you might say don't knock it till you tried it. Talking about the off-brand colas, but
Have you ever had that?
but I have tried them.
Yeah. What do you think?
But it's been 20 years ago. No,
No.
I just. I know some off-brands are the brands that the grocery store might offer under their name.
Yes.
That people will say, well, it's the same thing.
Right.
They just don't. They don't have the brand name on them, whatever it may be. But there's something psychological about with me.
Right.
Just me individually.
I would agree with that. Barks root beer has a distinct flavor to me versus like generic.
Yeah. I'm sorry I got us off the actual news trail, but
This is important, friends. There's a reason why it's called an off-brand.
Yes. And off-brand. You know. So
I'll tell you what.
yeah, you tell
okay.
us what.
Spaghetti sauce?
Uh-huh.
No. You don't.
No.
You don't go chintzy on.
I'm
the
writing these
spaghetti
things
sauce.
down.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I'm writing these things down.
I'll tell you something
Ed's,
else.
Ed's list of
Off
of off-brand don't buy.
off-brand ice cream.
No,
don't do
that's
it.
a no.
No.
Don't
do
do
not.
it.
But no, stay away.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
I'm with you on all that now.
That's it.
I would vouch for Dr. Pepper over Mountain Doctor any day. I don't know where Mountain Doctor went to medical school, but
Mountain
it wasn't
Doctor.
Texas.
Is it really? Is that?
There's a whole bunch of like fake
That's
doctors
I
out
think
there.
that's a reality TV
And I don't
show.
know who Mr. Pibb is, but he's not the same.
Doctor.
He's not a doctor. That's for
No.
sure.
He's got a PhD. Anyway,
All right.
I do
Hey,
have
hold
some,
on, let's reset this show.
I do
here.
have
Yes.
some reaction beyond
Tim
ours.
wants to
Okay.
Oh, yeah, let me reset this show because we're slipping into.
There's been some serious.
Well, we have a high
slippage
standard.
here.
We have a high standard to uphold, and I don't want us to go down a road where we lose our standards.
Yes.
All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim, Ed, Chris, and Ray, thank you for listening to AFR. We've been talking about what President Biden had to say yesterday on CNN about the economy, and to CNN's credit, they pushed him on that. And so now, what you're about to tell us about a reaction?
Yes, I have to just kind of wrap a bow on the Biden talks about the economy discussion.
Okay.
I've got reaction here from a podcast host by the name of Grace Curley, responding on Fox News. about
Grace?
Biden's, Grace?
Kelly?
No, Curley.
Grace Curley. Like, okay.
Clip 2.
We've had high inflation since mid 2021. We're now in 2024, headed into a new election. And what really blows my mind, Carly, is that nothing's really changed about this strategy. The strategy seems to be let Joe Biden tell himself things that help him sleep at night and make him feel better and deflect blame. And that's it. And the rest of us are just kind of out here going, okay, so there's really no plan. And you know what's the takeaway for me is this is what he's going to do for 4 more years. Like, people have to keep that in mind. If he is willing to spend 4 years blaming everybody else and not changing anything, and you want to vote for him again, get ready for 4 more years of this.
That's scary. Ray, I listen, we talk about every election being the most important election in history. I know every election we do that, but this one coming up here in November, I mean, we could be seeing the end of our republic. I don't think that's too much of an exaggeration.
You know,
4 more years of these
We've
policies?
been saying this for a long time, Ed. But I think what is different this time around, it's not just conservatives hollering from over in the corner. Across the political spectrum, people understand that something important about America's future is going to be on the ballot. It transcends Mr. Trump. It transcends Joe Biden, though they are representatives of two very different points of view. there is a sense in which America's future, freedom, democracy, and the Constitution itself are on the ballot. And the difference, Ed, is now liberals who do not share our point of view, they understand this is a watershed moment in American history.
Yep. Well said.
All right. Well, the economy will be one of the top issues on the ballot this fall for our presidential election, and which party gets the opportunity to lead in Washington D.C. Hey, by the way, yesterday we failed to mention this. Speaking about the economy and our future, the director of and I don't know if that's his proper title or not, but anyway, he heads up the Social Security office.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see this? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
He said 10 years.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
Yeah.
Now,
10 years until it's all the
yeah,
money's
I don't know whether that's, who knows? We won't know till 10 years from now whether that's an accurate projection.
Right. They will probably wait until the 11th hour.
Yeah. But now,
who is it that said this?
it was type it in, Ed. It was a fellow who's in charge of the Social Security.
So he's saying,
you talking about Martin O'Malley? So, Commissioner of the Social Security Administration?
Yeah, read, click on news from him.
Okay.
Because he testified before Congress and said 10 more years. Got any news on him? 10 more. You know what? It'll be
Let me go ahead and say Social Security and solvency.
I've got the headline here if you
go
want.
ahead.
So Social Security projected to cut benefits in 2035, barring a fix. That means that people on it now will start to get less money, and then people like us, me and Brent, may not even have it at all.
Oh, stop your whining.
We're going to spend
I'm
it all.
paying for it every 2 weeks, Ed.
We're going to spend it all, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That's the misconception. People think it's my money, but your money's already been spent on somebody else.
Yeah. It's every generation for himself.
Got that right.
We all know that Congress is the villain here, and I'm just saying.
But Congress has passed.
They've known about this.
Congress has
Right.
passed a pox on both houses, because all this Social Security money should have been going into a fund, and that fund could have been invested or could have just drawn interest, and then you pay out of it. I understand that there are a lot more people and a lot more people living longer, but they spent all that money and put IOUs in there, like Dumb and Dumber, and they spent it all. And now it's young people who have to pay for the older people. And
but are there enough workers?
And that's
are there enough younger workers to pay for? Now they've how many times have they risen? That's not the right raised.
Cost of living adjustment.
Well, the age.
Oh, it's been a few times just in the time that I've worked here.
You used to be able to get. I think my dad was able to start drawing Social Security at 60 or 62. He retired 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be well into the 70s.
But it's
for us.
I will probably wait till 70 because I'll get more money. I'll get more money from Brent and Chris if I wait till 70.
Exactly right.
Before I start drawing it.
But I don't think you can draw. I'm 61. I don't think you can draw it to your 62 at all. Maybe even.
I think maybe 65.
And even then, you might not be able to get all of it.
But I'm not going to do that.
Wait.
Yeah. Because I care about America, and I'm not going to do that until I
like working
until I can get all of it. In which case, I won't care.
I'm taking all I can get right now.
You are?
Yes.
How old are you, Ray? How old are you?
Ray?
71.
Oh, so you're past.
Yeah, I'm past.
He's going to get his.
Yeah.
When are you going to get yours, Ed?
So Tim and I, we're paying for Ray.
You're paying for Ray. We're still working out here.
I'll probably wait till 70. I think I get my maximum amount when I turn 70.
Right.
And that's how they try to entice you.
They want to wait till your health's completely failing.
That's
to
right.
offer you the full amount so you can
Ray,
spend it on doctors and medicine.
Ray said, case in point.
Case in point.
They got it figured out. They got the charts figured out.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back in a minute. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go yonder and pray." Gethsemane is located in a valley. Perhaps that is symbolic, for life cannot be lived on mountaintops. It is a series of highs and lows. And here at Gethsemane was a low period for our Savior. Gethsemane is located in the Kidron Valley, between the Mount of Olives to the east and the temple area inside the walls of Jerusalem to the west. It was a favorite spot for Jesus, and no doubt he came here often to pray and rest. On the night of his arrest, he had brought with him his disciples. 3 of them, James, John, and Peter, he took on into the garden. He went farther into the garden to pray, asking a simple request of his 3 friends that they watch for him while he prayed. But 3 times he returned to find them sleeping. Perhaps because it was late and they were tired, or perhaps because they did not understand the seriousness of the situation. It was in Gethsemane that Jesus agonized in prayer. His will came into conflict with God's will. He could see before him an ugly and painful cross which he wished to avoid. The sight and smell of blood from the slaughter of sheep for the feast of the Passover, flowing in the nearby Kidron Brook, was heavy that night. No doubt the aroma brought to his mind the very likely possibility that his blood would flow in a very short time. Jesus was not in that garden very long until he noticed a small group of Roman soldiers and Jewish temple guards, led by Judas Iscariot, coming toward the garden. Down the steps which passed by the home of Caiaphas the high priest they came, the very same steps Jesus and his disciples had walked down after leaving the upper room. Upon arrival, Judas greeted Jesus with a kiss, the traditional greeting among friends. "Master," cried Judas as he kissed Christ. How many times since then he has endured the same type of hypocrisy? They carried him away from Gethsemane to a fate no person should have to endure. He went willingly because he had decided while praying in the garden that God's will and not his would prevail. Perhaps as they walked away, he looked up to the Golden Gate across the Kidron and remembered the previous Sunday's events when the crowd cried, "Hosanna!" There was no crowd other than the soldiers now, and no hosannas, only silence and darkness. The Garden of Gethsemane is still there in the Kidron Valley today. This place of the wine press has 8 olive trees growing in it. They're snarled and twisted from age. Looking at them, one is reminded of the terrible agony Christ experienced here. It's never an easy matter to do the will of God, and every person who tries will eventually come to Gethsemane. Some continue in his way from Gethsemane. Others turn back and walk with him no more. Gethsemane is located in a valley. It always will be. For the crucial decisions which life places upon our shoulders are never decided on a Mount of Olives. The crucial, real, life-directing decisions come when we are in the valley. And this is as it should be. For the person who believes in God in the darkness of the valley is the only person who believes in God at all.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. Jeremiah 29:13.
American Family Radio. This is Today's Issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of Today's Issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of Today's Issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues. That's the name of this show on the American Family Radio Network. If you want to send us an email, The address is comments@afr.net. Comments@afr.net is our email address. The emails need to be what we call K-Love emails. That is positive and encouraging. So if you got something negative and discouraging to say, I suggest you sleep on it for about 7 days.
There you go.
Give yourself 7 days and see if you're still mad. If you're still mad, you can email Ed. Okay.
You go ahead, and I'm not reading it. I'm just telling you. There's enough negativity in the world today.
There is.
And listen, don't unload on me. If you have constructive
baby, don't unload on me.
That's right. You got something constructive to say, have at it. But don't tear me down. Don't bring me down, Bruce.
That's right. Don't bring me down. That's a song. Don't bring me down.
All right. We get cards and letters. Most of them are positive and encouraging. Hey, listen, we make mistakes.
Yeah, we do sometimes.
Yeah, and we apologize for that.
We do.
And we feel bad about it for a few minutes, and then we move on. All right, so
if I felt bad for prolonged periods,
right,
for every mistake I made,
right,
I'd be in a mental institution. You got to move on, folks.
Got to move on.
Right.
You ask for forgiveness.
Right.
You promise God you're not going to do it again.
Right.
And then you move on.
Right. Till you do it again.
Well,
then you ask forgiveness again.
Rinse and repeat.
Right.
That's right.
Right. All right. So anyway, thanks for listening, and we appreciate your prayers and support. Those of you who financially support our ministry, and we do, in all seriousness, we have a mission to accomplish here. That's spreading the gospel of Christ, and also informing our people, especially Christians, about what's happening in our country and in our world, and how we can make a difference. Right.
Hey, listen, I just want to say something, if I can, right now. No joking here, okay, folks? We're going to make it. All right? If you're listening.
Like Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't. Turn it here. Here's the turn off switch.
I was about to preach.
No, here's the turn off switch on Tim. Turn it off.
I don't think it's going to work.
Okay,
it's broken.
I'm going to put my mic on mute. So
folks, if you're a Christian, you are going to make it.
Amen.
It is very difficult right now, and I'm not going to bore you with it could be worse. It always can be worse, but a lot of you out there are really hurting. We understand that. Here, we pray for our listeners. Here, we pray for this country. Every day we're here at American Family Association, American Family Radio. But I just felt compelled to say, you keep your eyes on Jesus. We are going to make it. And some of us are going to get what we need when we go to heaven. Some of us will have a breakthrough in this life. But keep your eyes on Jesus. Get into church. Pray for one another, stand with one another, get in the Word, and keep your eyes on the hills from where our redemption comes.
Amen, brother.
Next
story, Chris. Preach it, Ed.
Well, I have some audio here of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis speaking in Florida at one of the mini campuses there.
Can we set this up
you
a little
can.
bit here? Okay, because I'm the one who pulled the clip. We know these protesters on many campuses across America, and that's kind of subsiding right now, I think. And as we found out, these were really only a tiny fraction of the student body, okay? But they got a lot of play. And then we found out half these people were professional agitators, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Who paid by Soros and others to, like during the BLM and the Antifa and all that. Anyway, so Governor Ron DeSantis, who's not one for mincing words, he is, what you're about to hear, he went to the campus of the University of Florida in Gainesville, which probably is the largest college in Florida, with maybe Florida State University.
It's one of the largest.
Yeah. So in the background, you may hear some of the protesters. He is speaking, I think, with the chancellor or the president of the school. And they're reacting to these protests. And they've said you can protest here at Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida, but you got to do it legally and peacefully. Okay, you can't be obstructing people's, the road, blocking roads, and things like taking over buildings, putting encampments up, and anything like that. Not gonna tolerate it. But anyway, so what Governor DeSantis is reacting to is the protesters and the how nobody seems to care about how this all started, basically. So that's what he's referencing. Now, this is a very he gets into some graphic detail about what happened on October 7th, the slaughter in Israel. So I just want to warn you, if you have children in the car, you probably don't want them to have this imagery, right, in their minds. Right. So we're going to play this clip, but just wanted to give you a fair warning on this. It's about a minute, I think. Is that right, Chris?
I don't have
Something
the TRT
like that?
in front of me. Yeah.
About a minute. Here we go.
I wasn't here after October 7th on the campus. I'm sure the protesters were all very upset at the fact that Hamas went into Israeli communities and baked babies in ovens, raped women, assassinated elderly people in very brutal ways. I'm sure they were very upset about that and were out. Oh, no, they weren't. That's right. They didn't care about that. They were completely fine with those massacres happening, and they had no concern about that. And I think that says anything. I also hear this stuff about occupation. The Gaza Strip is not occupied, okay? That's been Hamas's sanctuary for many years now. And did they create opportunities for people? Did they utilize the natural resources? No. They focused their efforts on terrorism, and that's what's happened. And so so much of this is just such a farce that it's just kind of embarrassing to even hear some of this nonsense.
That you could hear they were trying to drown him out there,
right?
The governor. And well, anyway, I just thought,
he's exactly right, Ray. I mean, this has been a case of young people who have been brainwashed. I'm convinced of it. They have been brainwashed. And by the way, what I mean by brainwashed, folks, is not kids being taught something I disagree with. I mean, when I say brainwashing, I mean they're taught only one side of an issue for the purpose of turning them into revolutionaries. And Ray, to me, that's not only happening on college and university campuses, it has slipped down into high school and even lower grades. These kids are being brainwashed to hate America, hate Israel, and hate God.
Well, you've got protesters out there, Ed, who actually don't believe the truth that the governor was saying. And I know that was graphic. I know it was. But there are moments in time when evil must be exposed. It must be brought out of the darkness into the light. It's unspeakable and unthinkable what Hamas did on October the 7th. And I think one of the ways you unbrainwash people is expose them repeatedly to the hard truth about reality. And I suppose we can't go into the future, but Ed, I think in the years to come, some of these protesters are going to come to their senses and look back and say, what a fool I was.
Right.
What a fool I was to follow the hard left, who are basically communist in their thinking. I was brainwashed. I think in years to come, many of them are going to come to their senses. I hope that happens. And let me just say, finally, God bless Ron DeSantis for standing up and speaking the truth.
And let me just add to what you have said here, Ray, and my hope and prayer is that these young people who do come to their senses in a free society, in a free republic, and aren't forced to come to their senses like a lot of people, the useful idiots who support communist revolutionaries, until they come to power. And then what they do is they turn on the people that helped them get there. And those are some of the first people to go into a gulag or go into a prison, or who are executed.
You hope they don't have to learn the truth the hard way. That way.
And the reason why those useful idiots, that is what Vladimir Lenin called those who helped support the communist takeover of Russia, the reason why the useful idiots are the first to be punished is because the revolutionaries who take power understand that the revolutionary spirit that was in the useful idiots that got them to power poses a danger to them. The revolutionaries have to be stricken from public.
Once you start a
lest they launch
revolution,
a revolution against the revolutionary.
once you start a revolution, sometimes it's hard to stop it, right?
Exactly.
So when the Vladimir Lenins of this world, when they come to power, what do? They imprison and sometimes kill the very people who put them in power because they dare not let the revolution continue.
That's right. Was why Lenin had Trotsky killed.
Yes.
With an ice pick in the head in Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay. Lenin and Trotsky led the revolution.
Right.
But Trotsky wasn't on board with everything Lenin wanted to do, so he got the ice pick. So my prayer is that America survive this threat, and I hope these young people don't have to learn the hard way, Ray. All right.
Next up, Chris.
I'm in a preachy mood.
Yeah, you go for it.
All right, I've got
Amen.
a couple of sound bites. The first one's a little bit lengthy, but I did it on purpose because I wanted the attorney to tell his side of this situation here, and then we can get into a follow-up, another audio bite from the same attorney. For a couple of days now, there has been a 16-year-old in North Carolina that's been in the news. His name is Christian McGee, and he is suing his local school district because he was suspended from school for several days after using the term illegal alien in the classroom. Now, the teenager's name is Christian McGee. His attorney is Dean McGee, no relation. Names are spelled slightly different. But what you're going to hear now is attorney Dean McGee of Liberty Justice Center talking to AFN about Christian McGee's lawsuit against Davidson County Board of Education over something that happened recently at Central Davidson High School in North Carolina. Clip 7.
And last month during English class, Christian returned after using a bathroom pass, returned to a class kind of mid-lesson, and there was a discussion about the word aliens. And Christian raised his hand and asked, are you talking about illegal aliens who need green cards or space aliens? Another boy in his class, who is of Latino descent, who he has a very good relationship with, these are two 16-year-old boys joking around, said, hey, I'm going to kick your ASS. Well, the teacher, not knowing what to do, called the administrators in. Both boys said, this is ridiculous. We were joking around. And from there, the administrators insisted to this young boy, the other boy in Christian's class, that Christian's words were offensive and were racial and should be taken seriously. And they ultimately suspended Christian for 3 days out of school. They gave him no opportunity to appeal, and they have now branded him with a racially biased comment as a basis for his suspension on his permanent record. And we're suing to rectify that.
Now, that has been in the news for a couple of days. And by the way, that was on me. I should have removed that part where he spelled out an expletive. That's completely my fault.
Yes,
I
it
apologize.
is. It is, Chris. No popcorn.
You need to own it, Chris.
Well, right. it is my fault. I did mean to take it out. So that's on me. But now this has been in the news for a couple of days, and understandably so, because you got somebody suing a school system over using the term illegal alien. Here's the deal. Dean McGee went on to tell me in the same interview, and this is a much shorter clip, Dean McGee went on to say that everybody should be paying attention to this case in North Carolina, regardless of where you might live. Clip 8.
We should all care about how public schools discipline our children. And if public schools are interjecting their own viewpoints into the disciplinary process, it puts our kids at risk to be branded, in this case, as racist, to be taken out of school for a comment that on its face was racially neutral, that according to my client and the conversations he had with the boy in his class, did not cause actual harm or offense to anyone.
Yeah, the kid who I think was Hispanic, he said he's the one who threatened. I think it was like playful.
Yeah, it sounded like.
Yeah, and so he said I wasn't offended, but the school said, well, we don't care. We'll be offended on your behalf. Now, Ray, I got to tell you, I know that most people, when you use the term illegal alien, probably think of someone from Mexico, Central America, or South America. But as this attorney said, it actually is racially neutral. You can be an illegal alien into this country from any country.
Right.
You can come in from China. You can come in from Russia. You can come in from Morocco, right? You can come in from any country. All it means is you have entered a country illegally. That's all it means, right? You're not a citizen of that country. You're from somewhere else, and you came in illegally. So it is a racially neutral term, and I think the school is going to lose this. I think that boy is going to win the lawsuit, almost has to, because he was railroaded out, and then to have that racially insensitive label put on his permanent record, when he wants to go to college, missions committees are going to look at that. They're not going to know the background of it.
Right.
That's a pretty serious thing. Yeah. So I think he's got to win this.
Let me ask you this: I think I know, but just what is offensive for those who would say that's offensive? That is the use of the expression illegal alien. What is it that they would say makes it offensive? Do you know?
I can only guess, trying to crawl into the mind of one of these progressive loonies who apparently running the school. My guess is that, first of all, if you say illegal alien, you are talking about a Hispanic. Okay, that would be
which we just said
is not true.
Correct.
Not necessarily true. And second of all, this foolish reply that they say no human being is illegal. Okay, they look at calling people here in this country illegally, calling them an illegal alien is offensive because you're dehumanizing them, which is ludicrous. We're not dehumanizing anyone. We're simply saying, as a category, they are aliens. In other words, they are not citizens.
Right.
And they're here by breaking the law.
Can we change it to lawless non-citizens?
Well, news outlets already have.
Sure.
The Associated Press has for years. They don't use illegal immigrant. They'll say undocumented immigrant, and now they just say migrants, regardless of whether.
Yes.
Well, I always had an issue with the undocumented part because I want to say, well, what's a follow-up question to that? Where are their documents?
Yes.
Well, they don't have any documents. They're undocumented. Why? Because they're here illegally.
Yes.
The undocumented thing is just a word change to cover up for the reality of the fact that these people are here, and they're not citizens. They're here. They didn't go through the legal process of entering our country, and I don't care if they're from China, Russia, Ecuador, or Congo.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Well, it's verbal mumbo jumbo. Listen, if you use AD before a date, okay, 650 AD 650.
Right.
Nowadays on college university campuses, they'll say, "Well, we don't use BC and AD anymore. We use BCE and CE for Common Era." And so I want to say, I'm not on college campuses anymore, but I want to say, well, what does CE refer to? That's the date. When did it start? Well, the birth of Christ. Okay. All right. So you ask one question and you expose how ludicrous this whole argument is. And this is verbal mumbo jumbo. If a cop pulls me over, Tim, and he says, driver's license, please. And I say, I'm sorry, I don't have it. I'm undocumented. Okay?
Right.
He's going to write me a ticket because you know what? Driving without your document is breaking the law.
Right.
So,
I think what the lefties do on this, the language change on a whole host of issues, is just to lessen the negative aspects of the crime.
Mm-hmm. This, I think, is why we, the people, and also those of us with children, need to use words for what they mean, and we need to teach kids what words mean, and we need to stick with those definitions because, talking about the campuses, we've heard and seen a lot of people say Israel is committing genocide when that is not by definition what is happening.
Right.
People on campuses want us to believe that Israel is calling for the extermination of Arab people. That is not factually accurate. They're not going after Saudi Arabia. They're not going after Iran, although they're Persian. They're not going after Jordan, whatever, all these things. But words mean nothing anymore.
I'll tell you what genocide is. Hamas wanting to slaughter all the Jews.
Yes. Exactly.
And they did it.
From the river to the sea means genocide.
Well, on October 7th, they didn't. They slaughtered them. They slaughtered those people because they were Jews.
Right.
And so that's genocide. That's the definition of genocide. You're listening to Today's Issues. That's the name of this program on the American Family Radio Network. Thank you for listening to AFR. Next story, Chris.
Yes, from the Carolinas to the state of California, where teens forced out of an exclusive California Catholic school for doing so-called blackface have been awarded $1 million and tuition reimbursement after proving they weren't doing blackface. It was actually them applying green acne medication.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
I will post the link so everybody can see images of these young fellas.
Kind of related to the story earlier, and just a few minutes ago we were talking about. So this kid in North Carolina gets suspended from school for using the term illegal alien, and now he's suing the school. And Ray says, and I agree with him, I think he'll end up winning on free speech grounds, right there. But now you got California. You got at a Catholic school, right?
Yes, St. Francis High School,
right?
in Santa Clara County, which is where Steve's from, I believe.
You had these, at least the picture I saw, you had these 3 or 4 teenage boys, and they took a picture of themselves and they put it on social media, and the school says they were using blackface. When the picture, when they said, no, we weren't, we were using acne medicine.
And it was green.
It was green. It was clearly green in the picture I saw. So the school, did the school suspend them or kick them out? Or
they were forced to withdraw from the Catholic high school over accusations of blackface.
Well, even after they explained it to the school administration, we weren't doing blackface. We were taking a picture using, and so they kicked them out. And the boys and I guess their parents sued the school and they won. They won $1 million.
Right. Yes, and this has been playing out
free acne medicine
a few years. They actually sued this high school a few years ago. Dean McGee pointed this out in the North Carolina story we talked about. He said, sometimes these things play out for years, which is why we're asking for immediate relief here for my.
You know what? I don't think the vast majority of Americans are as sensitive, if that's what you want, are offended as these far left school administrators are, or I don't know, political pundits. People are just not that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I know that.
That's true.
I know that in our history, we've had offensive, stereotypes of people, tropes, if you want to say that, of groups of people, but I just don't think most people are as worked up and bothered about it. I bet you the black students in that school or whatever, if black folks looked at that, they're wearing green face.
Yeah.
That's not blackface. That's not race. They're not being racist.
Right.
Okay. So now if you dress up in a white outfit with a white hood on, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I could see that.
Right.
But people very, very. I think the far left makes things worse than they actually are by trying to project negative intentions on the part of everything that's said and done.
It's like the left is filling up with Karens. Remember, that term to describe a woman who comes up and tells you, you should be doing this, you shouldn't be doing a total stranger. The left is filling up with Karens.
I know.
And the male counterpart of that, Ken or whatever
they also say that the comedians are saying it's killing comedy now
Jerry
in
Seinfeld.
America because
Right.
Jerry Seinfeld said it's killing comedy because now you got to worry about every little thing you say or you're going to be canceled.
Right.
We'll be back after this short time out. You're listening to Today's Issues on AFR.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
American Family Association, a ministry with a mission to inform, equip, and activate people like you to strengthen the moral foundations of American culture and to give aid to the church here and abroad in her task of fulfilling the Great Commission. We couldn't do it without your day-to-day support. American Family Association. Find us online at afa.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. A group of illegal aliens in Denver are refusing to leave an encampment until their demands are met. Ashley Webster has more.
They published a document with 13 specific demands, including, requests for provisions of fresh, culturally appropriate food that they can cook themselves, no time limits on showers, free immigration lawyers. They also want visits from medical professionals and referrals for specialty care. Unless these demands are met, the migrants say, well, guess what? We're going to stay in tents and we're not going to move to permanent shelters, funded, by the way, by the city. Denver Mayor Mike Johnson under pressure to clean up the streets after sparking outrage when he proposed government budget cuts, including cuts to the city's police force, all to help pay for the city's migrant crisis.
President Biden says the U.S. will not supply more weapons to Israel if Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu launches a full-scale attack in Rafah. Jillian Turner has more from the State Department.
Officials are saying that they're concerned the IDF has plans to use U.S. weapons in Rafah. Right now, a city it's packed with about 1.3 million Palestinians. 600,000 of those people are children. In spite of those concerns, the Speaker of the House insists supporting Israel in its war with Hamas is the topmost priority. On the other side of this issue, you have Democratic senators who are saying the Biden administration is actually not going far enough. They say he should halt, for now, all weapons shipment to Israel until this war has concluded.
Joe Biden, in a CNN interview, says his administration has turned the economy around and is driving down inflation. But Montana Senator Steve Daines says the outlook isn't as bright for everyday Americans.
The most expensive vehicle that the American people drive right now is their shopping cart. They know the prices are up over 20% from where they were when President Biden first took office.
President Donald Trump is back in court today in New York for his so-called hush money trial. Adult film actress Stormy Daniels is once again on the stand as the defense resumes their cross-examination. Eric Shawn has the latest from New York.
Stormy Daniels now undergoing some withering cross-examination by Trump attorney Susan Necheles, asking her about a lot of things involved in this case, trying to portray Daniels as an extortionist who would only agree to an interview about her claim she had sex with Trump if she was paid. Necheles accusing her of threatening to try and hurt Trump if he did not give you money. She asked. Stormy shot back, saying that was false. A lot of the testimony this morning centering on the NDA, the non-disclosure agreement that she signed with Trump. She says Necheles and her have been jousting over that, especially over that statement back in 2018, you may remember, where Stormy said that they did not have an affair.
It may be one student at one school in one state, but everyone ought to care about a situation in North Carolina.
Christian McGee is 16 years old, and he's being represented by Liberty Justice Center, where Dean McGee, no relation, is an attorney.
Last month during English class, there was a discussion about the word aliens, and Christian raised his hand and asked, are you talking about illegal aliens who need green cards or space aliens?
According to McGee, another male student, this one of Latino descent, jokingly said he was going to fight Christian.
The teacher, not knowing what to do, called the administrators. Both boys said this is ridiculous. We were joking around. And from there, the administrators insisted that Christian's words were offensive and were racial and should be taken seriously. And they ultimately suspended Christian for 3 days out of school. They rejected his mother's pleas for appeal, and they have now branded him with a racially biased comment as a basis for his suspension on his permanent record. And we're suing to rectify that. We should all care about how public schools discipline our children. And if public schools are interjecting their own viewpoints into the disciplinary process, it puts our kids at risk to be branded, in this case, as racist, to be taken out of school for a comment that on its face was racially neutral, that did not cause actual harm or offense to anyone.
I'm Chris Woodward.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
Transgenderism, critical race theory, and evolution. Is your child or grandchild ready to face these and other issues on campus? Hi, I'm Kirby Anderson with Probe Ministries and Point of View. You know, many Christians leave the church after they graduate, but they don't have to graduate from God. That's why we have the Mind Games Camp this year, June 16 to 22nd, a week of presentations, role play, as well as fun at camp. Sign up today at probe.org and help them meet these challenges to their faith.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Welcome back to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. By the way, we have if you missed the show and you want to listen to it at a later time, we have podcasting available. Go to afr.net. Click on podcast. There's a word up there. It says podcast. You click on that, and then you click on the Today's Issues banner. And I think whoever's in charge of that has put the Today's Issues banner at the very bottom. Look and see if I'm not.
All right,
if it's still at the bottom, and I don't know. It's not alphabetical order. Somebody just chose to put our show at the very bottom. Go on, see if
I'm going
right.
all the way.
Yeah,
we are. Well, we're ahead of. I think it's in
alphabetical.
I think
order?
it's in alphabetical. No. Because Vision Awakening is up there.
Oh, Awakening.
Real Truth, Sandy Rios. They're all above us. Tim, what's going on? Yeah. Today's Issues, Trivia Friday. At least we're ahead of Washington Watch and Pirate Money.
Pirate Money.
Pirate Money.
Yeah.
We're ahead of Pirate
we
Money.
Gotta keep believing up there, Ray.
Yeah, I saw it was up there. Yeah.
Keep believing.
In there somewhere.
Banner.
What is Pirate Money? I don't even know what that is.
It's a new show, I think. It's a podcast only.
It's okay. Kevin Freeman.
Yeah.
Okay.
He talks about the issues of the day and how they apply to money and the economy through a biblical lens, kind of like what we were doing earlier.
We need to have him on maybe to promote. See if we have him on, then maybe he can get his banner moved up.
That's right. That's right. Got to get that banner moved up. That's right.
Well, we can't get ours moved up.
I don't know. We need to have a committee or a meeting about this.
I think all you have to do is just
say so. Speaking to.
So we leave this. Now I got to go get a haircut, but you have time. Okay, unless Allison texts you and says, "Hey, meet me here for lunch."
Right.
We walk right out of this studio, and the head of American Family Radio is right across the hall. Tell them, move our banner up.
Move our banner up.
Oh, we're just kidding.
Yeah. Anyway, go to afr.net. All our shows there. The banners are there. We're just kidding about moving our banner up. So you can click on the shows that you want to listen to. Steve Paisley Jordahl joins us. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing, brother?
Good. I'm well.
Good. Any more? What's the next thing you're going to be? Your singing group is going to be doing here.
We have one more Sunday at church before we break for the summer. So I'll be doing the.
You don't worship God in the summer?
No.
Boy, you just set yourself up. For
I knew that.
No, you have.
You mean you're going to take a summer break? The choir
gets a break in the summer. They get to worship with their families down in the seats,
or on the beach, maybe.
Yeah,
everybody else.
Yeah. So but as far as other classical singing, everything will reconvene in the fall. And I don't know what we're singing, but I can't wait to find out.
But then about September, you start getting ready for your Christmas stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, no, we actually at church we have our first Christmas list of the music in July. We actually get together.
Really?
Yeah, we get together for a party. We have Christmas decorations up. It's in July.
How can you get your heart? How can you put your heart in it?
Yeah, your heart's not in it, but at least you know what you're going to be doing.
You ever heard of the Hallmark Channel, Ed?
It's true. You ever heard of Cracker Barrel, Ed?
Hobby Lobby.
Hallmark had what's another channel that does that? Anyway, they had on the Christmas movie the other day.
Yeah.
Now I didn't watch much of it. But
on Hallmark in May.
That's what I said.
No, they go year round.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they have such riveting variant storylines.
Oh yeah.
You don't know where the show.
Woman
That's
falls
what's so
in love
gripping
with
about
man.
it.
Happened.
Relationship
You don't know
is
where
in danger.
You don't know where. Do you, Steve? You don't know where they're going with this.
3/4 of the way through the show, the relationship is history and done.
Right.
And
And they're going to close the historic hotel.
And
That's
then
right.
all of a
You're
sudden
closing
he
it
shows up at her doorstep with flowers
Right.
and everything
And
is
it's
happening
snowing
forever.
on cue.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Snowing on cue.
Yes,
It's
anyway,
real life.
It's gripping, is what it is, and she's going to go back to the city to her big job, but
That's right.
But she meets her old boyfriend.
she meets her old boyfriend.
And, they
You
both,
seen this movie?
They both have had relationship troubles.
That's right. That's right.
Oftentimes there's a kid involved. In
That's right. There's a kid
looking
there
for a
to set 'em
mark.
up. That's
Right,
right.
right. And then the bank's going to foreclose.
Yes.
The mean banker.
That's right.
That goes all the way back to It's a Wonderful Life, doesn't it?
Yes.
The mean banker.
Potter.
Mr. Potter.
Wow.
Going to foreclose. Anyway, all right. Well, so Christmas in July for the choir from
For the
Amy.
church choir, yeah,
Amory First Baptist Church.
yeah,
right?
we're going to
Okay.
be learning what we're doing for Christmas.
All right. You're listening to today's issues. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Well, joining us in the studio now is our colleague and our good friend, Abraham Hamilton III. Abe is general counsel for our ministry, and he's also the host of the Hamilton Corner, Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock each afternoon, Central Time. Good morning, Abe.
Good morning.
So, Abe, how many Lifetime Christmas movies have you endured?
Oh, man. Endured. I have to tell you, I appreciate your attention to detail with the closing of the historic hotel.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
I want you to know that was not lost on me. That is a part of it.
That's
Yes.
every other movie.
Yes, I've served time at Hallmark as well. Yeah.
Well, sometimes when you just want to turn your brain off and just mush out, and you know what's going to happen, and it's going to be a feel good.
Yeah.
Right. It's a feel good ending. You're not going to have an ending with like Oh Yeller.
Oh, man.
Or you're not going to have an Oh Yeller ending on Hallmark.
Old Yeller, that's what happens in real life.
That's
Yeah,
right.
that-
You want a
That's
happy
Christy
ending.
Noem's
I
favorite
was
movie.
just thinking that. Christy
You
Noem
are
might have
brutal.
Christy Noem might have something to say about that.
That was good.
Yeah.
Her dog didn't even have
Steve was just so ready
rabies.
to throw in Christy Noem. Bless her heart. She's got trouble right now with her PR
Yes.
with killing the dog.
That's an unforced error.
Yeah. Well, but speaking of the what was the movie we were just talking
Old Yeller?
Old Yeller. Yeah. I cried at who didn't?
Oh, yeah, no.
I think it's okay even as a man.
That's why I don't watch
to
it
admit
now.
you cried at Yeller's, huh? No, you can't watch it again.
I don't.
You watch
Or
it
Brian's
10 times.
song.
That's what I was going to say. Brian's song, which these guys probably don't remember. Ray, you remember Brian's song, right?
I do.
I cried at the Terminator. That's
Have you ever seen
Brian's song?
Do you know what we're talking about?
I have no clue what you're talking
Gail
about.
Sayers and Brian Piccolo.
That's
Have you
an
ever heard of Gail
instrument?
Sayers?
Yes, I heard
Running
of
back
Sayers.
for the
The
Chicago Bears. When he came in as a rookie, Brian Piccolo.
It's a true story.
It's a true
It was-
story.
It was made into a movie in the 70s.
Yeah, I was
James
negative
Caan.
10 years old in the 70s.
Negative 10. Anyway, Brian Piccolo, I think, he was a running back that was a rookie at the same time as Gail Sayers, and they became a 1-2 punch in the backfield.
white and black. It's a racially,
But Brian Piccolo got cancer.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, at the end with Gail Sayers, I may tear up now. Gail Sayers, they became really good friends, even though they were competing for a spot. Of course, Gail Sayers was out of this
Who
world.
was the actor? Was it Billy D?
I think it was Billy D.
Williams?
Was it, and
James
Caan.
James Caan. Yeah.
Anyway, they redid the movie. They updated it back in the 90s or something. So I thought I'm going to watch it, but no way I'm crying at the end of this because the original was.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I did.
Yeah.
It's just sad.
Anyway,
it's a guy thing.
Yeah. All right. We're about to deep dive for just a minute into an issue that we, American Family Association, American Family Radio, are involved in, and I wanted Abe to come in because he can tell us about it. It involves the Federal Communications Commission The FCC. The FCC is as you may know, folks, is a federal agency that oversees broadcasting in America.
Television and radio.
Yes, television and radio. And the federal agency, they have 5 commissioners, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and whoever the sitting president is gets an appointment. So one way or another, it's going to be 3-2 Republicans or 3-2 Democrats typically. But the FCC, by and large, is basically a neutral government agency, and you don't hear much about politics entering into decisions. And you don't want that. You don't want that. We either side you're on. We just need them, FCC, to be neutral when it comes to politics and just do their job in terms of regulating the who can be on the air, where, not content of message. Okay, just licenses and things.
So you don't have 2 1300 AM 1300s in the same town.
Right.
Thank you, Steve. You said it simply. Okay, so Abe, what is it? Explain to our listeners what's going on here.
Yeah, and this focuses on an FCC regulation, but the regulation is imposed as a part of the Biden administration's administration-wide commitment to really advance, the LGBTQ IAP plus social agenda. That's just the truth.
That really rolled off your tongue, Abe. I'm disappointed.
Well, and it shouldn't be lost on us that this announcement and finalization of this FCC regulation follows the Biden administration's attempt to rewrite Title IX to where transgender identity basically is being foisted upon the entire nation under Title IX. Well, the same thing basically is happening through the FCC. So the FCC had a regulation that required broadcasters, this dates back to the 80s and 90s, to provide demographic data on all of its employees, including race, ethnicity, gender, and things of that nature. Back in the 80s and in the 90s, litigation ensued that said that the FCC was exceeding its constitutional authority in collecting this data, and so the courts forced the FCC to abandon those regulations. Well, the Biden administration, never to be shy about pursuing something, frankly, that's illegal, has decided to resurrect Form 395B to require broadcasters like American Family Radio to collect demographic data on all of its employees, ultimately to be published in the public station files, but not only the data from the 80s and 90s, but to add in an additional category of gender conformity or non-conformity.
What does that mean?
So
I know the answer before I ask, but it's still nutty. Go ahead.
Yes, what that means is that the FCC wants to require Mr. Wildman to count just how many gender non-conforming employees there are.
That's an easy count.
And then publish this data online to allow third-party entities and organizations to complain that I can't believe Mr. Wildman doesn't have blank amount of gender non-conforming people.
Well, what is gender not conforming?
Exactly.
Is that the term they use?
Yes, that's a term.
What is? By the way, we're going to court on this.
Yes. So we filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration, saying that this is unconstitutional.
Right.
This is an abuse of government power and an overreach.
Especially since we're a Christian ministry.
Yes.
We're not going to hire transgendered.
Right.
People.
That's the ultimate goal, to try to force AFR to hire transgender people.
We wouldn't hire people who are shacked up.
Right.
I mean, you have.
We have a statement of faith that we require all employees to comply with.
Right.
And so we're suing the Biden administration because it's illegal for them to compel us to change our hiring practices to satisfy their ideological position.
They have no business knowing that.
Exactly.
So we could very well say, why do you want the information? The government's not going to say, well, we're just curious.
Exactly.
No, they're pushing a particular agenda.
Yes.
And they're going to use whatever weapons they have in their arsenal to compel us.
Here's the ruse. Okay. Here's what they will hide behind, I suspect. And that is, you have equal opportunity laws that everybody has to abide by. In other words, you have to demonstrate that you're not discriminating against people based on race or ethnicity. I guess. Tell me if I'm wrong. Anything I'm describing here, Abe?
There's already laws that prohibit that.
Okay. There you go. But there's already laws that prohibit that and have been on the books for decades,
dating back to the 60s.
Okay, so but they're going to say this is the same thing. They're going to say, well, we're just trying to make sure that people aren't being discriminated against. Well, we're here to tell you we have biblical standards of behavior. This is our religious First Amendment rights that people have to adhere to, and they have to. They obviously consider. People don't typically apply for a job here and say, "Yeah, I'm living in adultery,"
right?
But I'd like to work on your radio.
Right.
We have standards that line up with the Scripture in terms of, when you make application to work here at AFA and AFR, just like a church does. A church does same thing. So we're not. So what is happening here? The FCC.
So the FCC announced this regulation Friday last week, and we filed our lawsuit against the FCC on Friday.
We were ready.
Yes, we were ready because we
knew it was coming.
We anticipated.
They had 6 months of comments, right, or something like that.
They had about half a year of comments, and they were warned, by the way, that this is illegal. You're going to lose in court if you do this. You're going to force the hand of people all over the country, just as these regulations without the gender issue was already illegal.
Yeah.
So adding that just adds an additional level of illegality.
Just real quick, excuse me for interrupting, it's rare. But, this is the difference between a Republican administration and a Democrat administration in today's world. If Trump were president, this would never happen. We would never be singled out, we being the Christian community in broadcasting, to try to force us to accept transgendered people for employees or have to defend ourselves against not hiring them. So the executive branch of the federal government does have enormous power, okay? By the executive branch, I mean the presidency. So, it's very important who's in the White House when it comes to these federal agencies, these three-letter agencies that are out there. Now, even with a Republican in the White House, sometimes they still get out of control, these federal agencies, because they are what you call bureaucrats. And many of them almost all of them are Democrats. Almost all of them are, probably 9 out of 10 of them are. They're Democrats. They work in the office in Washington, D.C., or somewhere in the country, mostly in Washington, D.C., for a agency, be it the FBI, or we've seen that, right, or the IRS, or the FCC, or whoever the case may be, and they're entrenched. And some people refer to this as the deep state, oftentimes. And we saw that with Dr. Fauci. With what was his three-letter agency? The
NIH.
Yeah, they're almost all liberal, almost all of them. So that's what we really need to. If we could size down the federal government by about half, America would be a lot better off. And I like the idea too. I know I'm getting off point here. I like the idea too, though, of start distributing these agencies across America.
Yeah.
Don't let them all be concentrated in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C., where they hobnob all together.
I'm sorry, it wasn't the NIH, it was National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
That's a Fauci?
Yeah.
Dr. Fauci, that was his group?
Yeah.
But that's still a federally funded, that's a federal government agency, right? Yeah. Okay.
But I had the wrong.
But anyway.
Yeah, but to your point, why would the U.S. Department of Agriculture be in Washington, D.C.?
Shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. They put it in Omaha or Kansas City or where Ray is. I mean, they just got too much concentration of power physically, in Washington, D.C., and somehow or another we need to bust that up. But this lawsuit, we want people to pray about this because we need to win this.
Yes.
I think we will.
Yes.
But we need to win this. Is this going to be? Did you file this in federal court?
We filed it in the federal Fifth Circuit. So, considering it is a FCC regulation, the law allows us to file directly in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Okay.
Which was it Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas?
That's right.
Federal court in New Orleans, your home city.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So, are you going to have to go down there to argue, or
depending on what happens? So, we're working with an additional firm on this.
Okay.
So, we're working out the details depending on how the cases end up ultimately being allotted, because there's suits that are coming in from all over the country.
Listen, the Joe Biden tried to appoint, what was the woman's name with the funny glasses?
I know exactly. I can see her face. Her name escapes me.
Okay, he tried to appoint this far left wackadoodle to be the FCC commissioner.
Yes.
You remember this 2 years ago?
I remember it. Gigi Sohn. That's her name. Gigi Sohn. That's her name.
That sounds like a liberal wackadoodle. Just the name alone. Huh? What's her name?
Gigi Sohn.
Yeah, Gigi. Gigi. Biden put her up to be FCC chair.
I think more than once, didn't he? Did he put her up twice?
Oh yeah, he put her up more than once.
She withdrew, and
she
about a year
withdrew.
ago.
Thank God.
Right.
She would thank the
Through
Lord.
the opposition, because had we and others not opposed her, she would go through.
But he was going to put her in charge,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like a lot of these people in charge of these federal agencies in D.C. now that Biden appointed to be heads of. They are just way out there in left field, and she was now. Fortunately, she was able to be defeated, or she withdrew.
She withdrew
because we and other groups were mounting a campaign against her.
Right.
Because she had said things openly like Fox News needs to be off the air.
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
I mean, she was saying things like that openly, and here you have a woman who's going to be in charge of giving licenses out for TV and radio, saying openly that she believes in viewpoint discrimination when it comes to licenses.
Mm-hmm.
Am I right?
Right.
Yes.
So, anyway, okay, Abe, we ask our listeners to pray about this court case, and
please.
You're our attorney, so you're going to be heading this up for us, right?
Yes, sir. I am.
Thank you, brother.
All righty. Thank you.
It's Abraham Hamilton III. Steve, we got 2 or 3 minutes here.
Yeah, let's just get to something pretty important here.
Okay.
Joe Biden is saying that he is going to withhold arms shipments to the Israelis if they go into Rafah. And so I want you to hear what he has to say. I had my list here. It's cut 5.
I made it clear that if they go into Rafah, they haven't gone into Rafah yet. If they go into Rafah, I'm not supplying the weapons that have been used historically to deal with Rafah, to deal with the cities, to deal with that problem. It's just wrong. We're not going to supply the weapons and the artillery shells used that have been used.
Artillery shells as well.
Yeah, artillery shells.
The weapon.
Yeah. So he's withholding the smart bombs, which Israel says then we'll just have to use regular weapons, which is going to kill a whole lot more people because they're not targeted nearly as well. And
this is Biden trying to dictate again what Israel can and can't do relative to their security. And you made a point at one of our meetings, Ed, about what if we were told we couldn't do such and such?
Yeah, I mean nobody.
Iraq.
Yeah, I mean we killed. I think the numbers are almost 200,000 Iraqi civilians died in the war in Iraq, and I don't remember members of Congress saying, "Hey, you can't do that." I mean, now listen, that was tragic, all those civilians dying, but that's what happens in war. We've made the point that if a country south of our border, let's say, we'll say Mexico, I don't always want to pick on Mexico, but if they killed the equivalent, okay, of what Hamas killed on October 7th, the number of Israelis, population-wise, with our bigger population, if they killed 35,000 Americans, there'd be no stopping us. We're not going to stop it because, we're going to say, listen, you either surrender or we're going to keep going. And that's what Israel's telling Hamas.
Right.
And Hamas won't surrender.
Right. Ray, thank you very much, brother.
You bet. Thank you, Tim.
My thanks to Ed, Steve, Abe, Brent Creeley, our producer. Who else was on today? Steve. No.
Chris, did you say Chris?
Chris. Yeah, Chris Woodward. And we thank you for listening. Have a great afternoon, and we'll be back here tomorrow for Trivia Friday.
We live in a day when America's families are under attack like never before. Buddy Smith